So, welcome everybody. Welcome to the first edition of Comms and Croissants 2026. My name is Bijan Farnoudi. I'm the founder of the Comms Network, and we first got together 8 months ago on the sidelines of the World Health Assembly, when around 80 of us, many of whom are in the room today as well, from the communication space in Geneva, got together to consider what's next for communications, what's next for our sector, what's next for the institutions that we're working for, what's next for us, what's next, what's happening with our jobs, what's happening to the people we're trying to serve. Since then, 8 months later, the world hasn't exactly gone in the direction that we would all have hoped for, quite the contrary. But in this attention economy of today, what we know is that this highly individualized information age, institutions don't break through, people break through. People don't listen to logos, people listen to people. But do we have the champions? Does our sector have the champions to break through in this cacophony of a hyperventilating world? Many of you might remember, and I see some colleagues from the Kofi Annan Foundation here today, when some time ago you would switch on the news and you'd have Kofi Annan framing whatever the debate of the day was. That was the real estate that we as a sector occupied in the public imagination. That was the level of influence and narrative shaping power that we had. But the media ecosystem changed completely, radically. It's a different world, and our leaders today don't break through on our podcasts, on our screens and our feeds. The truth is, we are pretty invisible for much of the world. And you might say that Kofi Annan is an unfair comparison. Not everyone has quite the charisma that Mr. Annan had, and you would be right. But as we will learn today, charisma is a learnable skill. And that is exactly what the Comms Network is about. It is to get the right people in the room and find ways on how we can elevate voices that put people and planet first. But before I invite Olivia, guest speaker, to the stage, a big thank you to our hosts, Yannick and Giga, the ITU UNICEF initiative that works to connect every school to the internet. Since working with Giga and partnering with Yannick, I've learned that 1 of 3 people are not connected to the internet today. That's over 2 billion people. So Yannick, thank you for the work you do, and thank you for hosting us.
It's wonderful to have you, Bijan, and all of you. Welcome to the Giga Connectivity Center. I will take 3 minutes of your time just to explain why you're here, the work we do, and also how you can engage if that's of interest. First and foremost, as you said, there's a few data points that we have to keep in mind. The first one is that there's over 2.2 billion people that are not meaningfully connected to the internet as we speak. That's a lot of people. And we also estimate that there's about 500 million of these people that are students, children in schools. And the reality is that they are missing out on opportunities, options, choices which could be offered if they had access to the internet. We also recently launched a report that showcases that in order to bridge the digital infrastructure gap, it will take about 1.6 trillion American dollars to finance it. It's a lot. The reality is that the digital connectivity divide is not just a huge challenge for some policymakers, for some governments. It is a systemic challenge that requires cross-sectoral collaboration. And it's why in 2019, the UNICEF and the ITU joined forces to create Giga. Giga, as Bijan explained, works with governments to give them the tools that they need to connect schools and give young people access to information, opportunity, and choices. And we currently work in about 47 governments around the world, and there's about 28 governments who are working hard to try to join the wagon. But what are we concretely doing? And that's probably the bridge between what this space is about. We're not an event space, we're not just a workspace, we are a collaboration space where we collaborate first and foremost with governments, but also with many stakeholders like you who play a role in bridging the digital divide. The first thing we do with government is map. We have a website called the Liga Maps where you can see over 2 million schools mapped in the world. And you can see the status of connectivity. For many of them, it's a real-time status of whether they have access to the internet as we speak or not. But we also map the sources of connectivity. You can see where the connectivity comes from. And if you add those two layers of information, that allows government to play with the different model. That's the second step we do. We model the infrastructure needed to connect schools, which then enables government to decide on various options of investment. And then we accompany them into financing, working towards financing sometimes very expensive infrastructure projects, which then brings us to the last pillar, which is the contracting. How do we help them to deploy? Across all of that, you have one reality is that the biggest challenge remains about collaboration. How do you collaborate within your administration? How do you work across the private sector, the public sector, and so on? So that led us, a few years back to create the Liga Connectivity Center here, which is meant to be a collaboration place where we bring representatives from the ministries of ICT, the ministries of education, regulators, the private sector, and so on, to collaborate, create new products, new solutions, which can help bridge the digital divide. We also do this from our Barcelona Tech Center in Spain, which is also a place that we engage with. And all of this to say that if you are working on things that are interesting, that overlaps, let us know. We want to be in touch. If you are hosting events or looking for an event space that relates to the work we do, let us know as well. But also, last but not least, if you want to follow our activities, this is a QR code to follow the Giga newsletter. And if you want to be posted about the events going on, like this one here, we also have a QR code on your right, which you can use. Altogether, as I said, the digital connectivity divide is not just a challenge for government, it is something that should concern all of us, especially here in Geneva. So let's try to collaborate, break down walls, and ensure that we leave nobody behind. Yeah, thank you so much, Bijan, again for being here, and let's continue the event.
Yes. Thank you, Daniel. So each Comes in Croissant is made possible because we work with a partner, and today that partner is ALIF, the International Alliance for the Protection of Heritage, who are celebrating their 10th anniversary this year. ALIF is the global fund that is dedicated to protecting and rehabilitating cultural heritage worldwide that is affected by war, natural disasters, climate change. And we would not be here if it weren't for you, Sandra and ALIF. Thank you so much for supporting this event. We share the same values, and it's my pleasure to invite you now on stage Sandra Bialystok, the Director of Communications from ALIF. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks very much, Bijan. Thanks, everyone, for coming today. I realize that I failed in my role as communications director because this is the slide we have. There is no call to action. There are no QR codes. But photos will be with this. So at least we have that. It is really, on a personal note, being here, standing and talking to you today is really meaningful for me. I've been orbiting this community, following you, admiring all your work for the better part of 20 years now. So to be kind of here to talk about ALIF and the work that we're doing, but also the way we're trying to tell stories at ALIF is particularly special to me. So the last time we were here, Sarah talked about storytelling. Today we're going to talk about the science of first impressions. We're kind of going backwards a little bit. Like, I feel like you need to make a good first impression and then you can tell a story, but that's neither here nor there. Both are arts that we all need to learn. And at ALIF this year, both are critical to our foundation because, as Bijan said, ALIF this year is celebrating its 10th anniversary. Or for all intents and purposes, we're celebrating our 10th anniversary. We all know that these are kind of random dates that we need to make up in order to tell stories about ourselves, in order to get more funding, more support, more partnership. So, okay, let's say that today, now, it's 2016, is ALIF's 10th anniversary. And it started in 2016 when global leaders, ministers, members of civil society were outraged by how cultural heritage was being targeted, mostly by acts of terrorism in the world. Think Palmyra, Aleppo, the Buddhas of Bamiyan, Syria, Mosul, these places were coming under attack, and the cultural heritage was being targeted for destruction because cultural heritage, museums, artifacts, archaeological sites, dances, songs, traditions, these are the things that define who we are. And when we erase them, then we can erase a people. We can erase an identity. So leaders were coming together because they were concerned about the targeted attack of cultural heritage in Abu Dhabi, and there was a conference, and there was a declaration, and Aleph was founded from that. So it's our 10th anniversary this year. We were founded in Geneva. Our secretariat was up and running by September 2018. Our funding model is based on the global funds, which is public-private partnerships, cycles of about 4 to 5 years of donors conferences, which we reinvests in the fund so that we have money to support concrete on-the-ground projects to protect cultural heritage. This is usually where photos would come up, but we've got annual reports in the front, you can see those. We have long-term projects like the rehabilitation of the Mosul Museum, which is going to be opening this year, our 10th anniversary. And we also have become cultural heritage first responders. We are able to act quickly because of our funding model in places like Ukraine, and Gaza, and Sudan, Beirut after the blast, within hours or days to protect cultural heritage that's at risk. So to date, since 2018, we've supported about 600 projects in 64 countries. We are a very small team. There are 22 people. We are all based in Geneva. We work a lot. We all in this room work a lot. We all know what this means. So on the communication side, it's our third donors conference coming up this year. And we all know the pressures that donors conferences brings to our teams. And so in communications and in development, we're working harder to tell more stories, to find protagonists, to talk about their stories and their experiences. And we're very fortunate that we have a lot of the raw material. We have amazing photos. I swear to God, we have amazing photos. In front. We have beautiful photos. We have people who are dedicated to their work. We have so many stories to tell. We have the raw material. But I think like everyone in the room, we also have a lot of struggles. We have to be respectful of the stories that we're telling. We have to make sure that the people who give us consent to tell their stories and that we're amplifying them in the right way. We also have pressure from above. We need to tell the stories that our donors want us to tell. And so we need to speak to the audiences in the way that our donors and funders and managers and executive directors want too. So we're always balancing this at Aleph, and I would welcome conversations with all of you if you want to talk more about how you're managing these struggles, because I'm eternally grateful to Bijan for starting this community, because I think this is where we're able to really get into the nitty-gritty of the work that we do. And at Aleph, we're also thinking about lots of different platforms that we can work on. So traditional platforms, annual reports, newsletters. You can also sign up, no QR code, but you'll find it on our website. Annual reports, newsletters, all of those things. But we're also thinking about how to tell stories and make people travel to new places. So new exhibitions, immersive exhibitions. We have these amazing tools that allow us to help people to travel safely to places that are dangerous. So these are the kinds of stories and questions that we're dealing with at Aleph. They're not always easy to measure in terms of impact and outreach, only time will tell. But I think we can all agree that these are important for us because, as Bijan said at the beginning, these stories and the voices of our leadership are being lost. And so if we can go back and tell the stories of the people who are doing the work, then I think it should shine and sing through. So thanks again to Bijan for creating this community for us. and for coming together today, and we are looking forward to continuing the discussion. Thank you.
Okay, it is now my distinct pleasure to introduce our guest speaker, Olivia Fox Cabane. Olivia Fox is one of the world's leading authorities on the science of charisma and the best-selling author of The Charisma Myth and The Net of the Butterfly, which have been translated into 36 languages. Previously director of innovative leadership for Stanford StartX, Olivia has lectured on charisma, innovation, leadership at Yale, MIT, Harvard, at the UN, and now here today at the Comms Network. Welcome, Olivia.
All right, guys, so I asked Bijan permission to run this not like a lecture. Sorry about that. So good. Sorry. Thank you. But as I would run a Stanford workshop. So what's going to happen is we're going to email you the content. All the science you'll get in your emails, which means that I want you to ask me the questions that you have for how this applies to you, because that's not in the book. Deal? All right, here's the warning. I seem to have the habit, when someone asks a question, that occasionally if I need to explain, I will pull them up on stage. It is okay to tell me, you know what, I'd rather not go up on stage, in which case, Bijan, I'm volunteering him to be the sacrificial lamb. You're welcome, my dear. So, first impressions. Yes, it's a science. Charisma is a science as well. We don't have the time to talk about it at that point, but just trust me on this. First impressions itself, a smaller piece, is called thin slicing, technically. And I'm sure some of you have heard the phrase, you never get a second chance to make a good first impression. Yeah, there's science behind that. So first question, how long do you think you have to make a good first impression? 40 seconds, you wish. Who said 3? Really close, 2. And Bijan mentioned I was at MIT. When I'm at MIT, we spend 1 hour on the first impression. And it's true that some of these traits are evaluated in the first 2 seconds. Other traits you have a lot longer, but that a lot longer actually means a max of 60 seconds. So much happens. Why? Why is it? This is one of the few things, usually I have to say, oh, be careful what I'm saying. We're going to talk about handshakes afterwards. Usually I have to say this is, of course, North American and European specific, not this. Why is it that thin slicing first impressions is so bloody universal? Where does it come from? Yeah, evolution. So in this area, I'm probably okay to say that it comes from evolution. Yes, everyone's okay with the concept of evolution? Thank goodness. Hey, you joke, but in the US, I have occasionally asked that question, and people are like, no, and I'm like, oh God, what do I say next, right? So survival instinct is another way to put it. And yes, if you think about it, back in more primal times, we often only had 2 seconds to decide if the shape cruising into our field of vision was animate or inanimate, human or non-human, friend or foe, basically fight, flight, or relax. We don't evolve that fast, which means that the 10,000-year lag time is a bloody blip evolutionary. So most of our instincts have at least a 10,000-year lag time on our environment, which is why today we still evaluate on fight or flight. Now, don't confuse fight or flight and friend or foe. The first question is, if we were to meet in a dark alley, who would win the fight? So what do we look at? Size, correct. Is it a big gorilla or is it a small gorilla? Can I throw him out the room or will he toss me out the window? Size. What next? Gender, thank you. Usually people don't mention that. Oh, I'm so glad. Yes, gender. It is a biological fact that generally speaking, most men are generally stronger than most women. Depends on training as well. What next? We're missing just one more. Age. Oh my goodness, this is a great group. Usually it takes me 5 minutes to get people there. Age. Yes, if they're 86 and I'm 22, I've got a damn better chance of survival than if it's the other way around. So age, size, and gender. Excellent. That is fight or flight. Now we move into friend or foe. So what do they look at for friend or foe? 80% of your body is covered in clothing. Yeah, sometimes people say hair, and I'm like, okay, that's true. Yes, so in general, people like people who are like them. And this has been studied again and again and again, but the best direct real-world example of that is when American Express saw their sales of credit card go through the roof when they started sending their salespeople to college campuses dressed like, and then they didn't just dress them like students, they hired students. Yeah. So clothing. So in general, IBM used to tell its people, you can wear anything you want as long as it's a navy blue suit. And chromatic science, yes, there is some truth to that. So you can look into, now this is cultural, what works and what kind of, in general, you know, you've heard that blue and green are the colors that diminish appetite. Apparently it's true. Blue is more or less the color of trust, the darker shade, the deeper of the emotion. I wouldn't stake my life on that, but it's interesting to look at. However, in terms of kinds of clothing, that on the other hand, yeah, that one's true. But what next? Once you've determined tribal wear, that's when finally your body language comes into hand. So, body language. People often ask me, well, I just need to control my body language, right? And I'm like, good luck. How many of you were aware, until I'm about to say it right now, of your eyelids fluttering in front of your face? How about the position of your toes? How about the weight of your tongue in your mouth? Have you forgotten your eyelids again? There are thousands of units of body language emanating from you every second. You cannot control it consciously. What happens if you try is that you might control what's called the macro expression on your face, but if what you're feeling internally is different, sooner or later, what's called a micro expression will flash, and even if it's as fast as 17 milliseconds, the other person will catch that. And then the feeling they'll get that there's something that's not quite right, called an incongruity, and you'll end up feeling inauthentic. Nothing kills charisma faster than coming across as inauthentic. So what do? Well, if you think about it, one of the first people who had to, aside from con men, obviously, but who had to solve this one, Hollywood actors. What did they come up with to solve this problem of the congruence of their body language? What new form of acting did they come up with? Someone said method. Yes, method acting. So method acting is essentially pretty much you become the character. It is simply based on the fact that, if you'll forgive the scientific oversimplification, our brain is crap at understanding the difference between imagination and reality. How many of you have already been scared watching a scary movie? Raise your hand. Right? Now, consciously, you knew it was just a movie. You knew that the people on screen were delighted to get paid $1 million to look like their head was being chopped off, right? But subconsciously, your brain sees blood and guts on the screen. It sends you straight into fight or flight mode, adrenaline rushing through your system. The placebo effect is free. It has no calories. It's, as far as I know, legal. We don't use it half enough. No kidding. Actually, I'm making this up, but 20%, a good proportion of the best charisma tools are based on the placebo effect. Does it have a corollary? Yes, the nocebo effect. Don't go there. Not good for you. But the placebo effect, which we're going to use right now, is an excellent way of using the fact that, in slightly more accurate terms, imagination and reality hit similar pathways in your brain in similar ways. Close your eyes right now. Close your eyes. Imagine a lemon. Cut the lemon open, bite into the lemon, feel the lemon juice on your tongue. And now, imagine dragging your fingernails across the chalkboard. Right, open your eyes. There was no lemon, there was no chalkboard, and yet, so many of you felt a very real reaction to a completely imaginary event. Welcome to the deliberate use of the placebo effect. In charisma, in order to control your body language, you control your brain. It is your job to play chemist with your own brain to get the right cocktail of neurotransmitters flowing through your body and therefore a congruent body language. Questions at this point? Okay, so I'd like you to turn to find someone in the room you do not like. I'm kidding, turn towards your neighbor. Any human will do. All right, so find a neighbor. Anyone who doesn't have a neighbor. And do we have anyone with, yeah, you can work with 3. Yeah. So I'd like you to look at them. Look at them, not me.
Oh.
All right. Look at their eyes. Look at their face. Look at their general body language. Okay, close your eyes. Close your eyes. Still facing them. Close your eyes. I want you to think of a problem at work, something that is really annoying you. Get into the actual feelings of that annoyance, of that problem. Open your eyes, look at each other. Close your eyes again. Eyes closed, people. Close your eyes again. Now, I'd like you to think of one of the favorite people in your life. In fact, this could be a person, this could be a pet, this could even be a stuffed animal. Anything, any being for whom you have strong affection. Again, getting to those feelings and really feel the affection you have for them. Open your eyes, look at each other. All right. How many of you saw a difference? Raise your hands.
I was imagining
Okay.
a bunch of people.
That is with no prep, no training. That is how effective the placebo effect is. Essentially, it is your job to assemble in your head a library of images that will get you whatever neurotransmitter will work to get you whatever body language you want to make the good first impression. So you walk up to someone, you've gotten the right image, you have all your body language in congruence, fabulous. You walk up to them, what happens next? You will talk. Usually what's interesting is that something happens even before you say a word. All of that happens, believe it or not, you will actually, most of you will actually start moving towards a specific gesture. Handshakes, yeah. Now, here's where we get culturally specific, but in the US and Europe, you may not realize it, but most of you, and this is a smart thing to do, you will start signaling ahead of time, usually. Whether you're moving for a handshake or a hug, now sometimes it can get a bit complicated, but usually you'll start signaling that you're moving in for a specific kind of contact when you're already several feet apart. Now, why do we shake hands? Oh, but where do you know what's interesting? So that handshakes first appeared in 2800 BCs in Egyptian frescoes. Why have we been shaking hands that long?
To avoid being stabbed.
To avoid being stabbed, you're on the right track. We shake or show the right hand to show that the weapon hand is unarmed. And what's really interesting is it actually started out as a hand clasp. No daggers in the sleeves, good to go. Medieval knights added a shake. No daggers in the sleeves, no daggers hidden up the sleeves, good to go. And that is why it's always the right hand. Do you know where the root of the word sinister comes from? Yeah, left. There are periods of history in which left-handed people were so little trusted that they were actually put to death. Yeah, how many of you in this room are left-handed? You're lucky to be alive.
Taking over the world.
Well, you're also, historically, you're more creative, more innovative, all those things. Yeah, but now you're allowed to be that. So, handshakes. Since we are showing that the weapon hand is unarmed, what is really interesting, actually just to tell you, the importance of the handshake, it's fascinating. The studies on handshakes are mind-blowing. The increase in trust from a handshake is so critical. And it's not just that. There are so many, I've had CEOs and hiring managers who've admitted to me that the handshake decides the interview. The rest is window dressing. So what's a good hand? Actually, you know what? Before we talk about good handshakes, what's a bad handshake?
Very soft.
It's a dead fish. So just so everyone's clear on that, can you please turn towards your neighbors and try with each other a dead fish handshake? Go ahead.
All right, folks. Just so we're clear.
You never, ever want to give that kind of a handshake. So what's a good handshake? Bijan, can I have you up here for a second?
Sure.
He has been warned. So good handshakes. So because we want maximum palm contact, open your palm wide. So you're going to open wide the space between your finger, and now I'm going to slow things down, obviously, right? So, wait. You're going to wrap your fingers around his palm. Excellent. Now, be careful. No dominant handshake. This is a dominant. No submissive handshake. This is a submissive. And no two-handed, double-handed politician's handshake. Now, sometimes people ask me, but what if I want to give that, really warm, I really like you feeling? Fine. Shake the hand keep it for one additional beat with eye contact, and then let go. That'll give you the same warmth without the sleaze of the politician's handshake. So back to this. I'm going to ask you to try with each other. Now, if what you want to be clear is if you have a difference in size, I tend to have small square palm. Bijan has a big palm. You know what? Try with each other a handshake with palm contact and without. With and without, and feel the difference. So this is without. Yeah. This is with. Right? Yeah. You see how there's kind of like a gut feeling, a difference? Okay. Questions at this point? Yeah. Hey guys. Yeah. Go ahead. What if you tend to go in for a hug?
Yeah, like I obviously will go like I think that's good to go for a hug if I know them. But even sometimes if I don't know someone's background, I might go for a hug. So yeah, how do you?
So first of all, signal early. I'm so not kidding, right? It doesn't have to be a big motion because we read so much of each other, but signal early. Second, be certain that you're a woman, so it's easier, but be certain that you're in a culturally appropriate context. And then be aware that with some people that will actually activate their sympathetic nervous system, which despite how it sounds is not the good one, the fight or flight reflex. Do you know what happens when the SNS gets activated, when the fight or flight reflex? What happens to your brain? You're a gazelle running away from a lion, right? If you're a gazelle running away from a lion, what does your body do when adrenaline rushing through your system? What happens to your body? You tense, sweat, yeah, but what else happens? First of all, you poop. Seriously. And because your body is concerned. Your body is concerned with surviving 10 more seconds, not 10 more years. So it evacuates what it had, lighten the load, literally. Second, it shuts down your immune system and your digestive system. You were wondering why you get sick more often when you're stressed? That's why. But what happens to your brain? It goes into all the things that will help you survive a physical fight, like acuity of eyesight, heart rate goes faster, more blood to muscle, and it shuts down all the unnecessary systems such as cognitive reasoning. If you send someone into sympathetic nervous system fight or flight, you are no longer dealing with a rational human being. Congratulations. Which is why I was saying it is your job to then get them back. The parasympathetic, the PNS, is the tendon befriend system. If you can't get that, because it's a switch, it's one or the other. You're never at neutral.
Okay, no more hugging.
Hey, if you know them, that's absolutely fine. Okay, so handshakes. To recap, you want maximum palm contact. Sometimes it can help if you go in at a slight angle to get max palm contact, see what I mean? You wrap your fingers all the way around them. Is it going to feel intimate? Yes, you're trying to literally give a hug with your entire hand. Grip. Match their level of grip and go one higher. Fascinating outcome of studies. People will get over a handshake that is too strong. They will not get over a handshake that is too weak. So when in doubt, go just one notch higher than theirs. 1, 2, and then you let go. Yes?
I'm sorry.
Please.
Visible minority here in Geneva, it's a very different concept, especially in the multilateral system we're here, right? Despite my 20 years experience, I have all these barriers in that thin slicing thing. I get my hand crushed all the time. Just because I'm a meter 52, which is okay. And it takes me 3 minutes to establish already, like, I'm gonna use it as an example, so. Because these are my counterparts. And I have to come in and use big words like, I'm a legal advisor. I have to say 3 times, I'm 42 years old. Do this. There, I got your attention. Thank you. So I agree. However, in this setting, the visible minority factor is completely ignored. With the mission, with the ambassadors, all the ambassadors from the Global South get ignored or pushed back or shoved. And then my intern will be like, oh, I'm so sorry, I spilled coffee over the ambassador of Sri Lanka. That's it.
I wish I had a good answer for that. I don't. Seriously. The only thing that I can submit is, thank you, Bijan. The only thing that I can suggest is one of the other areas of dominance is vocal fluctuation. And specifically, whether your voice goes up at sentence breaks, as yours does, or whether it goes down. So obviously this is not going to solve anything, but just as one possible element to add, you've heard of uptalk, right? The California, especially teenager style of even when it's not a question, the voice goes up, not just at the end of a sentence, but at sentence breaks, which drives me crazy, but you've heard it, yes? So in vocal charisma, the studies are fascinating that we knew that voice going down at sentence breaks and at the end had an impact. Turns out it's not just that, it's the speed and the depth at which the voice goes down. So one possible small element, not going to solve anything but might help, you have a voice that goes up. So it's the difference between the sky is blue and the sky is blue. Now mine is off the charts, but it is also male-female dynamic. Women tend to have a slightly higher voice in general, but they are socialized and conditioned to have a few things. We're taught to be small. If ever you're on stage and you find yourself doing this, cut it out. This is you trying to be non-threatening. I'm harmless, please like me. The head tilt also. If you're a woman, you find yourself going into head tilt mode, bloody well stop it. Take up space. The best training that I recommend for women to change the way you move and to change the way you move on stage and to change the way you just generally carry yourself, martial arts. Specifically, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Judo is also acceptable, but don't give any sissy sport like karate. Not that I, feel strongly about it. No, seriously, you need a real grappling sport. There is a kind of grounded confidence from knowing you could take the other guy down across the table. Now, unless he's better trained, I can kill a guy in 3 minutes. Quickly, quietly, efficiently, no problem. Most of my female students I have to send to martial arts because they have been trained to not be threatening, and in negotiations, in business, etc., they have to learn the whole opposite. So if you want a good training for yourself, women, for the next couple of days, monitor your head tilts and see how often you're going into cute, please like me mode. But the other thing is, ask someone that you're close to monitor your vocal uptalk and record yourself. All right, just a minute on this. When I have to explain to people that words don't matter, I wish they did. I'm autistic. Oh God, I wish words mattered. My world would be so much easier if it did. Unfortunately, it does not. The MIT Media Lab was able to model with 86% accuracy the outcome of negotiations, sales calls, and business plan pitches without listening to a single word of content. Sorry, humans, man. Only listening to vocal fluctuation and the ratio of speaking to listening of the people who are pitching. So I'm going to oversimplify this because we have very little time. More fluctuation, better. Yeah, there's a lot more nuance, but just that's a general thing. Enthusiasm and confidence. And I'm going to give you an example. The critical issue the world is facing today is that blue rhinoceri are fighting with pink elephants. And if only they use the correct color of toilet paper, all of this would be solved. Have I made my point that the words are irrelevant? I could give me a sentence, it doesn't matter what it is, and I can make it sound convincing and influential, and you may tell me, oh, it shouldn't be this way. Yeah, we agree. Again, welcome to humans. You can try to change human nature, good luck, let me know how it goes, or you could use the way it works. So the fluctuation of your voice, the specific downbeats of your voice, the speed and the depth at which not just the end, but the breaks of your voice works, that is one of the critical things in having authority. The other thing is, we were talking about space. So when a silverback gorilla, a rival comes onto his territory, gorilla wants to intimidate him off the territory, what does the gorilla do? Yeah. What and why does it beat his chest? Why does it do that? Because it makes him look bigger. Turns out alpha humans do exactly the same thing. They'll tend to sit on one chair, put their arm in a second chair, put their feet on a third chair. In general, there are, of course, everything I say is generally North American specific, possibly carrying over to Europe, but the more powerful the human, the more they take up space. And so this is going to be also with your voice. Don't be afraid to take up more space with your voice, but also in how you sit. All right, questions at this point? Yes?
So maybe it's a bit old-fashioned, but I have a feeling that the handshake within a woman, I mean, I never handshake with a woman. I have the feeling that it's more of a, male thing, so maybe I'm totally wrong.
Not in the business world. Now, the nonprofit world might be different, but the quality of your handshake is so important in how you are evaluated It's, again, I wish it weren't this way, but look up the studies as to just how much the person's, so you know what's evaluated in those first 10 seconds? Your level of intelligence, social success, competence, trustworthiness. In the 60 seconds, you get a bit more leeway, but again, that's 60 seconds, right? And the handshake is going to, can you overcome a bad first impression? Sure, but you've got a mountain to climb. Whereas if you make a good first impression, the deck is stacked in your favor from going from there on. And at least in the business world, and in fact, I think the studies were done also just on the street. If you had a good, firm handshake, the kind that had full palm contact, etc., of course, this was evaluated, but this was evaluated for con artists and what they could get people to do. You would be shocked at what a good handshake could get people to do. So the way I'd see it is you're missing out on one of your best tools. And what I'm always, I beg Bijan to help me understand why is it that the business world always wants me to come teach them this stuff and the nonprofit world is like, ooh, icky. I understand that these are tools we wished we didn't need, but humans, man, don't leave your best tools on the table. The bad guys are using them already. I promise you that because I teach them. I'm desperate for you to have them as well. Yes.
Would you say it's better to say, hey, let's try that again?
Yes. Oh, thank you for asking that. Yes, yes, yes. The handshake is so important that if I have a fumble for the handshake, I will actually say, oh, I'm so sorry, my bad, let's do that again. Yeah.
Now may not be the time for it, but when you're ready,
yeah.
Could you touch on first impression virtually? Because a lot of times...
Oh, thank you for that. So this is just the beginning, okay? So charisma is a science, the bulk of the studies is since 2011, which is yesterday in terms of science. With virtual charisma, it's only like 3 or 4 years. So take everything I say with not just a grain, but a salt shaker. I'll only give you a couple of things. First of all, your voice matters more than your face online. It took me by surprise as well. And the most important thing is check your rate of audio compression. Because if there's too much audio compression, you know what? I'll send you the chapter on online charisma as well, and Bijan will send that to you guys. Now, everything I'm saying here has been given to me by the guy who studies online charisma. So this for me is new. This is the best I know. If you want the best eye contact and face, have a picture of your favorite person, figure, stuffed animal, whatever, taped to the camera, and speak to that picture, rather than to the little black lens. That will ensure that your eye contact is right. And in terms of your voice, if the audio compression is too high, it flattens the emotions. So it's fascinating that time after time, people have come across as angry or annoyed or confused when they were in fact enthusiastic because there was too high a rate of audio compression. So in that case, at least says Oliver, the science guy, turn off the camera to make sure that your emotions come out well in your voice. All right, last question, because I think we're pretty much out of time. Anyone has one last question? Yes, yes.
It's not a question so much as just to add to what you were saying. I recently found out that the speed of the internet connectivity is also a factor, because to somebody else it seems like you're speaking over the other person if you have a delay.
Yeah, yeah. Internet speed is huge. Yes, which I can't tell you which ones they are, but there are tools. So your internet connectivity is actually critical to your charisma. All right, so the last thing I want to leave you with is this. A quick tool to, essentially I'm not going to say ace your first impression because there's going to be factors that I can give you all the tools in the world. They're not going to. But here's it will generally help in most situations tool. Turn towards another human, any human. Okay. If you don't have a human, pick me. That's fine. All right, look at them, and now close your eyes. I'm only going to give you a few seconds. At the end of those few seconds, you will shake their hand, give them a hug, whatever works. But for those few seconds, you're going to max out the placebo effect. So I want you to imagine the person you're facing is your long-lost best friend, someone that you had great memories with. Maybe you went to Scouts camp and you heard them singing really, really badly around the campfire. Maybe you burnt marshmallows together. Maybe you jumped into the swimming pool. As much as you can, get all 5 senses involved. This is your long-lost friend. When I say go, you will open your eyes and shake their hands. Are you ready? 1, 2, 3, go!
All right.
So this is just one example of what happens when you have a library of images in your head that you can pull on to get the right body language, to get the right first impression. It was a pleasure speaking to you this morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you, Olivia. That was amazing. And just to say, Olivia came here late last night, is leaving today. You're doing this for us out of the goodness of your heart. Thank you. It's amazing. Thank you. So that's it. And so last few words, we're going to continue having coffees and croissants over there, so please join. Yeah, but what I always say at this stage, this is our community, right? There's no secretariat behind this, there's no funding behind this, it's just us. So if you have ideas or suggestions, like help bring this to life with me, I'm trying to inject my own version of whatever this should look like. But I need you, right? I need you. So if you have ideas, come speak to me. It doesn't have to be now, can be later. Write me a WhatsApp. If you are in our joint WhatsApp group already, we have the general chat, we have the comms jobs chat. Maybe there needs to be another chat. Maybe there needs to be a health comms chat. I don't know. Maybe someone is based in London and they're like, we're going to open the London chat, you know. This is ours for the making, so help me make it. What else? Yes, post about it. We're all comms people, so post about it, advertise about it, spread the word. Help me fuel this community with life. Voilà, that's it. Thank you so much for coming. And yeah, please mingle more with everyone over there.